Welcome to the bold analysis. Raila Amolo Odinga has revealed today in Makwili that former IBC commissioners Irene Masit and Cherera, who was serving as the vice chairperson at IEBC, were forced to flee the country and are currently hiding in the United States of America because of threats and intimidation and harassment they were suffering under the Kenya Kwanza administration. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what I want us to look at in this podcast, because I want to believe that, number one, a leader in the caliber of Raila Odinga cannot make a pedestrian statement on this matter. And of course, he's revealed about how the vindictiveness of William Samoei Ruto does not parallel the posturing as a man who is very forgiving. Before we delve much into that, I am still reminding you of the Brian appeal. This gentleman here suffered in the last protest, and this is the guy that was seen on video suffering police, that was being beaten in Kisumu by the security officers. He died 7 days in ICU while receiving treatment in Russia, and the family are in the final touches of giving the body a send-off on interment of the body on Friday. So as the board, I contacted, they reached out, and there was a deficit. So as the board, we decided that we're going to support the mother on that with 50,000. Now, of course, it's been dragging, but I'm just reaching out to you. Kindly, I was supposed to end this yesterday, but I had to escalate to today, so that to make sure we receive the target. The burial is on Friday, and that is why I want us to support and raise at least 50,000. The deficit I have as of now is around 16,000. So when we receive 16,000 by the end of the night, I think we'll be able to send that to the mother. Thank you for those who are supporting and sending their contribution. Straight to my point. William Samoei Ruto has allegedly forgiven the Kotu boss, the people that were in campaign trail in Azimio la Umoja, the Kotu boss, Francis Atwoli. I have had an interview of also Mutahi saying that when he reached out to William Ruto, he was bashed, but again, he was very remorseful. I've also listened to Mutahi saying that some members of the deep state, or including the former Ogola, who allegedly was part of the team that wanted to stage coup against him in Bomas, he's forgiven. And Mtahi is asking, what did he do that he cannot be forgiven? Now, after the elections, Cherera 4 were hounded out of the office. Cherera with other commissioners were hounded out of the office. And it was a motion that was sponsored and things rushed and they were ejected. I was very categorical that the ejection of Cherera, while they were vilified in public as people who did not serve the interest of the majority, according to the government side, because they now had the machinery, but it was a clear plan to make sure that another team is fixed. And if there was a punishment for Cherera, Irene Masit, and the rest, then the only punishment they deserved or that they had been given was that of being ejected from IBC as commissioners. Now, why do you think that Cherera, Irene Masit, and remember they're only talking about, Raila is only talking about the two, Irene Masit decided to stay put and defend herself in the corridors of court, but government side got their way with it. Irene Masit, we understood, even went and surrendered her resignation and resigned voluntarily after a lot of intimidation, and she decided to leave the office instead of facing the panel. Now, what we've then see is the two had to leave the country. There is another point I'm saying. How about the other two commissioners? There was some other two commissioners, I think I've forgotten the names, that also were part of it, but they did not leave. Why Cherera and Irene Masit. Number one thing about them is they're the two female commissioners. Of all those commissioners, there were the two females. And number one, Cherera was the vice chair of IEBC. All has been said and done. Another observation I'm making here is, Raila is saying they had to fly the country and go seek hiding place in the United States of America. The 2017 general election, when one of the commissioners also left the commission prematurely heading to the rerun, none other than Rosalyn Akombe, she also flew to the US. Now, there is another conjecture I want to bring into this, that Raila Odinga blamed the West for having influenced the election results, actually the election or the foreign infiltration in the electoral system. Then the US has given a place or has accommodated the two commissioners. I will be very straight and very objective on this matter. There was only three things. There are only three possibilities why Kenya Kwanza administration were looking to eject these two commissioners out of the country. And I'm looking at it this way. Number one, after the election, there was a call for audit of the last election. What William Ruto wanted was to suppress and avert any discussion or any possibility of investigation on the last general election. Now, the two left the country this year, and I think according to Raila, I think that of Irene Masit emerged somewhere in May. Now, by the time Azimio la Umoja were doing the first batch of the first mass action, it was about open the servers. The largely, and that means that if that protest was to go on and bring the discussion on table, the issue about the servers was at the top of the demands that Azimio la Umoja were putting on table. So if this was already gaining momentum and the discussion about the server emerged, I remember Raila saying the way those servers were, a lot of what was going on was about the server. So the indication about this move is, number one, people, or rather Kenya Kwanza, did not want to hear of anything called investigation on the matters of election. Number two, I want you to remember that Raila used to give some doses about election, especially from around February, where he said about where some servers were located. He talked about what happened. He talked about, remember the issue about the numbers that were leaked, about this 8.1 that, who is this? That someone had hacked the IBC system and had leaked the figures that Jeremiah Kioni was talking about. I see a possibility that Kenya Kwanza could have realized, the intelligence could have realized, that Raila is getting some reliable feeds from those who were at the IBC. So the move to remove these fellows, to make sure that these fellows are out of the country, was to make sure that you cut Raila feed, or rather to cut Raila network in relation to last general election. Because ever since, I think that the discussion about the server and what happened, the Azimio la Umoja have been so mum about it, even though some other people that were in the inner circle have been trying to create twists and spins about the last election. Number three, apart from investigation, William Ruto has been avoiding by all means any media coverage or investigation, or I want to say visibility of these commissioners. I want to say that I've seen a story. I think there is some interviews that are being done by some, I think it's Kenyan, Eric Sokole of NTV. They've been the game of minds, and they've been interviewing politicians and stakeholders in the last general election. Now, we've seen very damning revelations about politicians and what happened. What William Ruto also knows that maybe they created the hostile environment so that these people will be suppressed to speak about what exactly happened. The truth of the matter here is, there could be conspiracy theory. There could be some conspiracies between Chebukati and those who are in the terms of the elections and these commissioners and some of these commissioners. But then it is very clear that there will be media coverage. I've seen the former IBC commissioner being interviewed. Gulia being interviewed. Chebukati has not appeared in any interview. Some of these people would get media coverage and start asking, maybe giving stories about what exactly happened. I also see a possibility that I've always realized that the Kenya Kwanza have insisted that 2022 general elections were free and fair, and everything that happened there happened, and that is what should be done. I think it's also a matter of making sure that these people are out, are not in the picture, and are not influencing, because there are those who are also in the commission and they had the influence of the two commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my take. But again, we cannot normalize that after an election, people are vindicated. The vindictiveness is not a very conducive environment, because it's actually bringing the hostility. Hostility is what is creating the revolution about it. At the end of the day, people seems to have moved on. And the president seems to have been forgiving people whom he thinks were against him. Why should we still be hostile to election officials? But then one question keeps on coming. Why US? Why do you think those who are leaving go to US? And again, US was likely blamed for having been amongst the Western team that supported William Ruto. And again, Chris Kun is back in the country pushing for a handshake. So what exactly is it? Akombe flew to US, through Dubai to US. Masit and Nani also could be. But there is also a possibility that Raila is giving this spin, maybe, and it's not. Do you want to tell me that he will also give the relocation of these people? His question or his point is not on where they are, is the fact that they are hiding.
Mama, iwacho ni nyanyi moro mane marariyo ni.
Marariyo mane otim for 3 days no. Koro no chako Wednesday, Thursday, kaso Friday, ko Friday mano goye. Koro koro kako teo hospital to bedo in coma. Koro otieko 1 week kengi ko kete oxygen.
Oketo wantie week oketo oxygen
Ken coma oketo oxygen. Koro otieko 1 week agik Sunday. Toto.
Agik Sunday toto.
Koro otieko mana 1 week. Ko chiem to kumen. Koro kagi Sunday noteka toto.
Agoni mos makende wago mos maduong' ahinya. Nen wuodi maradi?
En chogo, en wuoda mara auchiel.
En wuodi mara auchiel. To notimo ang'o Kisumu?
Kisumu nyoto tiyo mane hotel.
Nyoto tiyo mane hotel, Mos ahinya wachne to koro owacho ni useyudo kaka inyalo ang'o wacho ni useyudo cha?
Kaka inyalo chul bill.
Mar osiptal. Nitie nyaka mar osiptal,
nitie nyaka mar osiptal gi mar michari. Koro fodo rem dia gine beche ma winjo joga godala kaka dhi ome. Kaso gidhiang' be pok oyudi kech ng'eni joluo to nyaka welo ama boyo nyaka ne chiem. Koro mago poni kanyo matindo go.
Koro nitie gima nowuok e telo maduong' lakini pod ok oromo.
Pod ok rom.
Okay, sawa watema ne wabende. To uketo budget mar sanduku pesa di?
Koro sanduku negiketo mar 30,000.
Negiketo mar 30,000, Ok, nodwa nugole ticha ticha?
Igole Thursday. Ike Friday.
Aya, sawa. Tarehe 17 Koro